Niagara is in the top 10 of the most visited sites in the world. As we approached, we saw the strong winds making the mist from the falls billow around like smoke, as if the river below was on fire. Our first view of a boat on the river was in the traditional blue of the Maid of the Mist. But there had been a major franchise change in 2014 when a company called Hornblower became operators from the Canadian side, and they brought in a brand new catamarans and a new colour scheme. As we headed down to the boarding platform, everything seemed very well organised for our sail, although the boarding process did seem a bit like going through a cattle pen. Once underway up the Niagara Gorge, the boat was battling against the current, and we were battling against the wind. There are 3 sets of falls at Niagara, and we first passed the American Falls and then the adjacent Bridal Veil Falls. There is now a colour coding system for the Niagara waterproof ponchos. On the American Maid of the Mist boats, they are in blue. On the Hornblower Canadian boats, they are in maple leaf red. And for the American land-based Cave of Winds tour, they are yellow. This tour allows sightseers to walk right up to the base of the Bridal Veil Falls. Here, the Maid of the Mist is passing in front of one of the Canadian Power Station buildings. The American and Canadian falls are divided by America's Goat Island. There are hundreds of other waterfalls in the world higher than the Canadian Falls, 57 metres. It is the combination of height, width and the sheer volume of water that makes Niagara so special. The flow can be quantified in various ways, such as 6 million cubic feet per minute, or 40 million gallons per minute, or put more poetically, this is about 1 million bathtubs full a second. Returning back down the gorge, we can see more clearly the talus or giant boulders that have accumulated at the foot of the American Falls. Some years ago there was a survey carried out to see if these could be removed to improve the appearance, but it was deemed to be too expensive an operation. As we headed back downstream, some of the skyscraper hotels on the Canadian side came into view, and also the Skylon Tower with its rotating restaurant on top. The International Rainbow Bridge connects Canada and America. The disembarking process was as efficient as the embarking one, as indeed it had to be, with the Hornblower boats being licensed to carry up to 700 passengers and working to a 10-minute turnaround time. This was the American Falls as seen from the so-called Mist Gourmet patio just up from the landing stage. A fast lift whisked us back up to street level, and it was then across the road to the Sheraton Hotel for lunch in their restaurant with its spectacular views of the gorge and the falls. After lunch there was time for a stroll around the gardens before heading off to the next place on our itinerary. This was Prospect Point, where the water from the Cascade Rapids topples over the edge. While the boat trip was an excellent experience not to be missed, there are also very good views of the falls to be had from the land. The greenish colour of the water is due to the dissolved salts and other particles, finely ground rock suspended in it. The Hornblower craft are called Niagara Wonder and Niagara Thunder, the names having been chosen from competition entries from all over the world. As the catamaran approaches the falls, even its powerful twin engines are having a struggle to progress against the force of the water. Prospect Point is also a good viewpoint for the American and Bridal Veil Falls. In 1950, Canada and America signed a treaty in respect of the amount of water that can be diverted for the purpose of generating electricity. In particular, in daytime in summer, a flow rate of at least 100,000 cubic feet per second must be maintained to protect the tourist spectacle. It is now the turn of the Maid of the Mist boat to make its approach to the falls. The Maid of the Mist and the Hornblower captains have agreed on alternating departure times for their 20-minute figure-of-8 journeys up to the falls and back. The current Maid of the Mist boats are numbered 6 and 7, although slightly confusingly, there have actually been 11 boats since 1846. They are of a more traditional design and are not quite as big as the Hornblower ones, carrying a maximum of 600 passengers. From the falls, we made our way along the Niagara Parkway to the Whirlpool Rapids, where the river has to make a dramatic right-hand turn and literally swirls around the bend. Normally, it is possible to get a bird's-eye view of the Whirlpool and Rapids by taking a 10-minute ride in a unique Spanish aero cable car that glides right above them. But the same winds that had caused the swirling mists earlier in the day at the falls meant that it was not considered safe for the car to operate. The Spanish part in its name refers to the nationality of the engineer who designed it. Our final stop was to be in the charming little village of Niagara-on-the-Lake, where the lake referred to is Ontario. Life here was altogether sedate after the brashness of Niagara itself. The main street consisted of upmarket boutiques, specialist shops, and well-maintained residential properties. The Shaw Festival Theatre, describing itself as one of North America's most celebrated theatre companies, is another of its attractions, with 4 theatres operating in the summer months. It was not surprising to see a white stretched limo outside the village's main hotel, as Niagara has been called the honeymoon capital of the world. The Lake Ontario waterfront, giving the village its name, was a few blocks to the north of the main street. Its beach had a view of Fort Niagara on the American side of the estuary. Niagara certainly provided a very full day of sights.